And let's get some more analysis on this with Harry Broadman, a former international trade negotiator for the United States. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. What's your take on why Donald Trump has decided to make this step now and increase tariffs, and could countermeasures perhaps change his mind again?
Well, as we've seen, there isn't a tariff that Mr. Trump does not like. In this particular case, obviously this was a setting for him to give a speech and a rally about the Nippon-US Steel merger, so it was not surprising that he would, add, the tariff issue to that party, if you will. 50% is obviously not an insignificant increase in the size of tariffs, and so it's not surprising that the EU, Canada, Australia, and other steel producing and aluminum producing countries would object.
And we just heard in Rahul's report that this step could be music to the ears of blue-collar workers in America. Would high tariffs on steel and aluminium really help US producers in the long run, in the short run as well?
Well, probably in neither case. I mean, if at best it could be the short run, but the long run, no. Tariffs generally, and I'm not being, a religious fanatic here, but tariffs are price hikes in essence. And what that means is it's going to force industries who use steel and aluminum in the U.S. And others will, shift to cheaper goods, produced, in the U.S. or elsewhere. It depends on how sweeping these tariffs are. It also has an inflationary impact because, as we know, steel and aluminum are inputs into a lot of goods into America. And so, like any economic problem or issue, there's a question of dividing the pie. How much does it go to workers? How much does it go to shareholders? And how much does it go to consumers? In this particular case, it's quite a poignant, episode because he's in the middle of negotiating this long-running issue between the Nippon Steel company from Japan and U.S. Steel, where he was. And so one should not be surprised that he did this. Again, as I say, he's tariff hungry everywhere he goes, but I just don't think this is going to work out to help the American economy be much stronger, and actually probably not even help the workers all that much, because the price of goods that they have to buy, with their wages now will increase from all the steel embodied in the products that they're buying.
Mm-hmm. So ultimately it will lead to further inflationary pressures. What role do you see the WTO having, the World Trade Organization? Do you see further disputes being settled there?
It could, but I think at this point, a lot of this is happening on a bilateral basis. There will certainly be, I suspect, a complaint drafted for the WTO consideration. But I think it's also important to know Mr. Trump's track record in slapping on tariffs. Some of this, maybe a lot of this, is for effect. And we should not be surprised that he backs off, maybe wholly, maybe just in part. But, he's putting tariffs on and off. And I think the real story here, frankly, for the steel industry, if not for the U.S. economy and the world economy as a whole, is he is injecting just greater uncertainty about what investors should invest in, what consumers should buy, and the like. And so this entire tariff game, this shell game that he's been playing, really, is pretty, chaotic, to be blunt. And I'm not sure that it's sustainable.
Well, we really appreciate your insights on this today. Thank you so much for joining us. Harry Broadman, former international trade negotiator for the US.